So in my last video about Dot, I talked about how Hypercarry at least has some sort of relevance, with Acheron being as good as she is, which is true, but let's be honest, Hypercarry isn't in that much better of a spot compared to Dot. Like, you're not really playing Hypercarry, you're playing Acheron, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're... like most other hypercarries, have just like fallen off a cliff. I mean, does anyone remember when Jingli or Sealy was the best character in the game? Like, dude, that feels so long ago now. Hypercarry has kind of similar problems to Dot, where it just hasn't really gotten stuff, but I feel like it's in a different way. I think the main problem with Hypercarry is that each of them is kind of like fairly different from each other, so you can't really just make an overarching like Hypercarry support like Robin or Ron May are for like follow up and break. Like, I guess you technically could, because a lot of them like advance forward, but I feel like even if they made that, I feel like that would just be better with more recent characters anyway. Like, and I also just think that Hoyo's design philosophy is kind of moving away from those kinds of characters, like kind of moving away from generic characters that are just like generically good, and have characters that, like, you know, they want each character to fit into an archetype, right? I mean, that's basically every single character that we've gotten has fit into some sort of archetype. I mean, even look at like the characters we're getting like recently. You know, Sunday seems to be, you know, one of the main drivers for Summon. And Fugue is also going to be mainly the replacement for Harmony MC, because we're getting Remembrance MC. And it even seems to be, you know, we're going to that trend even more, with 3.0 being about summons. So that's probably going to be, you know, the next big archetype as well. And, you know, the game overall is just trending way more towards wanting characters to fit an archetype, rather than just being, like, generically, like, good damage dealers. Hypercarry as an archetype isn't really the same as something like Follow-Up, or Break, or Dot, because Hypercarry doesn't really have one central mechanic, you know. They're just like, they just do a lot of damage. Like, that's kind of what it, like, they're just like the central character that does a lot of damage. I think that's the main issue with Hypercarry, is that they're just so, like, each of them is just kind of like pretty different from each other, that like there isn't really a one-size-fits-all solution like maybe that Dot could have. Like, even some of the characters have gotten supports, like Imbavator Lune got Sparkle, which did boost his, I think, boost him up like a bit for a while, but at least like now he can't really compete with characters like Firefly or Face Shao that are just like so insanely good. Like, it's kind of sad, like how much like a lot of these older hypercarries have fallen off. Like, dude, Stanley has probably had the biggest fall off in the whole game. And to be honest, like, I don't even know if there is anything that Hoyo could do to make her and a lot of the older hypercarries better. Like, even if Sealy had the ability like that she had in beta, where like every single kill would give her a turn, I don't even know if that would be enough, since some enemies just don't spawn ads. Like, and I feel like the only real way to make hypercarries come back, which, even though this is kind of sad, is just to make new hypercarries like Acheron. Which, you know, like I said, it's kind of sad, but I just think the old characters just don't have the kits to compete, even if they did get dedicated supports. Now, you know, obviously, I would love to be wrong. You know, I would love to see characters like Blade or Jingli or even Zealey like come back in a big way. But I just don't see that really being the case. Like, I feel like you could do that with Dot, right? Like, you could make a Dot support. I feel like that could actually, you know, maybe boost Dot up quite a bit. So with Hypercarry's problem, there isn't like one central mechanic that you can like add like a support to that could help fix it. Which is why I feel like, you know, Hoyo is making each of these archetype have a like mechanic so they can actually design characters around it, instead of having like all of the characters just be like just good in general, and not having like a mechanic that ties them all together. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, it really just is like what do you do? Like, what? I don't know, man. I really wish Hypercarry could, like the older Hypercarries could come back, but I really just think the only way it's going to come back is if they just make new ones. Like, I really don't think the older characters are ever gonna get boosted. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about Hypercarry? Do you think there is a way that it could get buffed? Like, at least the older characters could get buffed to come back? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.